I'm shocked. Come on in.
Conversation, and fuck it, why not put a
All right.
conversation on?
Sounds good.
Yeah, so you got a circus going on there with a new puppy.
Yeah. Her name is Morgana. She's a 10-week-old German Shepherd. Possible lab mix, but she looks pretty much mostly German Shepherd. Will be easier to tell when she gets older. Depends on what her ears and tail do.
What about Morgana? That's it. The name was, what is it?
Morgana.
Morgana.
With a G. Think King Arthur.
Okay. All right. I don't know that very much. My young
Morgana Le Fay.
Okay. Explain about that.
Half sister to King Arthur, also slept with him. Kind of the dark female figure from the Arthur legends.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So do you think that sleeping together was a purely metaphorical thing? What kind of
No, I'm actually rereading The Mists of Avalon right now by Marion Zimmer Bradley, which is it's an amazing take on the period of time, the legends of that time, and then linked in through with the Arthur tales, with the actual people that these tales were based on.
Huh. Yeah,
because the stories are like late medieval French tales, but they were talking about events that had actually happened. With people like Magnus Maximus was like a pre-Arthur king of Britain, supposedly. What he was a Roman officer who managed to hold on against the barbarians, and finally got it in his head that he could be emperor, marched off east, and never came back. But it turned into a legend of the king that would come again.
Right. Yeah.
And that then morphed into the Arthur tales. So her story, I mean, it's a huge book. I mean, it's in the hardback size, it's still like 2 inches thick.
Interesting.
If you get it in the paperback size, it's like 3.5 inches thick.
Really?
Yeah, it's a huge book, and it goes through the whole thing. It's told through the eyes of his sister. She's called Morgan in this one. And it starts off with the perspective of Igraine, and it links it to the actual tribal religions instead of grafting this Christianity on. It represents Christianity as it was at that time, which was a fairly newcomer to the scene in Britain, but becoming dominant.
Describe that Christianity at that time. How would you describe it?
Well, first off, you got to set your baseline. The earliest Christians pretty much can be considered to be British, because according to legend, and there's no historical evidence to contradict it, Joseph of Arimathea booked from Judea after everything went down, which was probably a smart thing to do. He ended up in Britain. Glastonbury Tor, the holly, supposedly was Joseph's staff that he planted there, saying, "This is where I'm going to stay." And he created the first European Christians in Britain. This is like 5th century. All this stuff was wrong in the past.
5th century. So not much was going on in
base. That's when the stories that these tales are based on actually occurred, was 5th century.
That's right.
Rome had pretty much withdrawn from Britain. They were out of there. When things were falling apart, Saxons were getting really frisky. You had the Irish and the Scots, which at that time were pretty much the same thing. I mean, do you realize the Scots actually are Irish? And Scot is not a nice term. Scott, basically, nearest I could translate it would be robbing fucktard. That's what the Scots from Ireland were. They came raiding into Britain and eventually took over against the Picts and other earlier peoples in Scotland. And that's where the Scots came. So you can see that a lot of the things that happened from the English toward the Scots later on suddenly goes into new light.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's
It's like,
right.
oh yeah, it was those suckers, and also what they did in Ireland too. Because remember, that's where they came from. And they were doing the same thing in England as
Uh-huh.
far as dating, and they were not the nicest people. There was a reason why, but even in the hell after America was founded, Irish. Don't you remember Blazing Saddles?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Okay, the niggers and the chinks can come in, but none of the Irish. That was a
That's a
lie.
that's
They're
a
like,
that's a
okay,
quote. That's a quote.
but no Irish. And they're like, oh, come on. It's like, oh, all right, they can come too. I mean, people with no historical perspective really have such silly ideas. Let me tell you about things like race and such.
Yeah.
Shush up, you. Shush up, you. Yes. All right. Bring me back up here. All right.
The dog's talking, right?
Yeah. Well, she's still new, and she knows who her people is.
But it doesn't take them long.
What?
I don't think it doesn't take them long to figure out, who their pack is, right? Give them a couple weeks.
Oh, no, she knew pretty much. She was a rescue. I think she recognized fairly quickly. It's like, oh no, these people have they actually intend to like keep me. She's family.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And meeting the daughter. Also, I mean, she knows who that is.
Yeah.
So,
do you think much about the dog's consciousness when you're, observing animal? Yeah, so do I.
However, it's like a good way to anchor is people's attitudes towards contraception with animals, pets. I think a lot of it is just knee-jerk reflex stuff, like fixing male cats. If you've got a cat that goes indoors, outdoors, it's not going to have a problem spraying. They're not going to spray anywhere where you're going to see it. It's for use to mark territory against other cats, which generally doesn't occur in your living room.
Yeah.
You might want to be careful about people with cats who come over if they have a male cat too. You want to don't let the cat jump up on your lap, because that could be. But you cut any animal's nuts off, any mammal, and you cause profound changes to their psyche.
Mm.
It's inevitable. I mean, we are hormonal beings as mammals.
Mm-hmm.
That's where a lot of our motivation and energy comes from, is this seething of hormones and such. So you don't play with that without respect.
Yeah. So what kind of things happen to the cat psychology then when that happens?
Well, with the boy cats, it just really it kind of dumbs them down. They just think the classic idea of a eunuch.
Mm-hmm.
They can become kind of like ineffectual. Think Brian Stelter.
Mm.
You just went from being Harrison Ford to Brian Stelter.
Mm-hmm. So I hear you.
So that's kind of what you just did to this person. And I think most mammals I think qualify as people if you're living with them. They have enough of a developed psyche that they deserve some respect as people.
Yeah, that's very progressive, right?
Oh, I don't know. It's always been people who've done the best with animals have always had that attitude, whether horses or anything. I used to deal with bears when we were up in the mountains. Black bears. I don't know if you've ever encountered them. I know you got a lot of them, but they're not hard to deal with. But you got to pay attention to their body language and know how to use your body language to talk to them, so that they know what you want them to know. You got to be able to understand how to communicate with them with the body language, because that's all they have.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you see people, black bear shows up at the campground, people standing there with their cell phones. So, picture that posture. A whole bunch of people standing there with their cell phones. You know what the black bear sees? A bunch of curious folk. That's an invitation to wander over. Like, hey, we're curious. Oh, I'm curious too. Okay, I'll come over and see what you're.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they're not even thinking that they're communicating anything to the bear. That's how arrogant people are with that. The bear's just there. The bear's doing its thing. You know, they aren't thinking that, no, you are part of this interactive environment.
Yeah.
And it's looking at you and it sees something and it's going to interpret it. It's like when I've talked to you about my idea about Genesis.
Yeah.
That it's, if you look at it from the idea of start at the Big Bang and end up where we are now, it becomes profoundly accurate and incredible. But you got to look at it as, picture somebody had a dream in deepest, darkest Africa. They don't even know what those shiny things flying over are. They have a dream about the moon landing, the whole damn thing in detail. And they wake up. Now what? What the hell did they just see?
Okay, so explain that again.
They just saw in detail pictures. They just got pulled out of their body from wherever they were in the darkest jungles of Africa, South America, wherever. And now all of a sudden, their perspective in the dream is watching the moon landing, the whole evolution, the launch, the whole thing. They just saw this thing go down. And now they woke up.
Okay.
What the hell are they going to make of that? And more, how are they going to communicate that to anybody? What is the story they're going to tell?
Right.
Look at Genesis that way. They have an accurate picture. This is how it began. This is how it all got here. This is filtered through the mind of someone who had no idea what the hell they just saw.
Or, I mean, what they're seeing, right? They're trying to imagine.
Yes, they're trying to relate it to whatever their reality is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It has to fit in all of their concepts. If it doesn't fit your concepts, it doesn't exist. It's just you can't react to it because it does not compute.
Yeah.
And everything computes somehow, especially if it's the work of man, it's going to compute somehow.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd agree with that.
So they're, and you're going to communicate it. It's got to be in symbols that are shared, and they only had the symbols that they shared. Yet the concepts, the truths that actually seem to be in there, are way beyond anything that was in their conscious mind.
Oh, so I see. Yeah. No. It was just loosely. I mean, it was described perfectly with their language.
By their conception. There's one part that talks about fruit-bearing trees. I said that's stars that with planets, stars that had life-bearing planets. These were the fruit-bearing trees. I've actually wrote a book on it. It's called Quantum God. At least part of it is about that. It's just very short. Something I need to go back to and revisit, I think.
My
take on theology is, I mean, people talk about dying is just another birth. In a way, yes. The ego that we know as ourselves is gone. But the perspective that was looking through that ego is God. It's the universe. And this is coming from out of theology through science into quantum physics, and then coming back out my ass into theology again. Of the nature of reality demands consciousness. I mean, there is when they're creating the first AIs, they have to give the AI had to have its own location. It had to know where it was. It had to have a body to be able to affect it, to be able to relate to anything. It had to know where it was. They couldn't just have this free-floating perspective. Doesn't work.
Exactly. Yeah, it had to have
all matter. I mean, I've talked to you about this before about virtual particles that are constantly appearing and disappearing. The reason why they're virtual is they don't hang around long enough to notice or be noticed by anything. As soon as they are, it's like, picture two people who don't really want to make eye contact, and as soon as they did, it's like, oh, damn it, no, we're stuck. Okay, no, you go away. No, I can't. No, you go away. They can't stop seeing each other now because now they've seen. And that's reality. Real stuff is the stuff that got noticed or noticed other stuff, and now it's stuck with it.
Yeah.
But it's all one seamless thing. The baseline thing, it's like this is stuff popping up. You might have heard the term like quantum foam. You've got the baseline flat of reality with this noise that's just there. It's like, are you following me at all?
No. I'm totally following you because I was going to think I was going to find out. I was going to see if I can make the connection between the foam and the dark matter. But
yes, awareness is an essential, fundamental part of reality.
So, like in a panpsychism sort of blanket.
All the Beatle lyric, it's like what is it? I am he and she is she and we are all together. That's a scientific statement. I mean, we literally are, as near as I can figure it, we are the hands and eyes of God. We're the part of God that does things. That's all life is.
Yeah.
Because all the universe is God. And you find echoes in this all through all of our religions.
Yeah.
If you need the science to put to know where to draw the line around all the right concepts. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, explain that a little. Well, I mean, no, I understand what you're. I'm just trying to clarify it.
You need to know why. If you're going to say, okay, this but not that, you got to know why. I mean, part of our scientific awareness right now is an implicit understanding that we are incapable, in principle, of full comprehension of what's going on. It's just not there. We are part of what we want to understand. We are a seamless part of this thing that we're trying to understand, and that's you can see that's totally just an oxymoron. It would be like a lab rat gaining understanding of the project that it's part of.
Yeah, that would be.
It's just no, that doesn't work. So, but that's already built in. We accept that. Religion says it's the same thing. God is unknowable ultimately. Don't try to get to the end of the corridor. It's about how do you be here now, not how do you know it all.
Because you can't know it all.
You can't. Bingo. You can't. I think that's one of the advantages I had when I was very young. Is just through accident of reading or whatever, I stumbled on some of these concepts fairly young, and I accepted it because it seemed like it. Yeah, it seemed self-evident. Some of them, and nobody had spoiled me pushing me in any other direction.
Right.
I was an agnostic for like 10 years, from 15 to about 25, and after that, I was a Wiccan priest.
Oh, a what kind of priest?
I was a pagan priest. Wiccan. I was a witch. As a result of 9.5 hits of double dip Berkeley acid, taken one night, and a experience in the chapel at Scripps College, amazing place. I pretty much met God. Only it was goddess and God. And at this time, I didn't know anything about goddess religion. I'd read about Greek myths and stuff. I knew, there are goddesses. That was it. And I can tell you from learning later, it was all right there. The whole male-female duality, the whole Wiccan, pagan, goddess, god, horn god type. Yeah, the whole thing was there. And for about a month, I felt like the high priest of my own religion, but I didn't care. It was like, hey, this makes sense. I'm going with it. It fits. It works. There's flow here. And then I found that it had a name. I picked up a book called The Spiral Dance, which is still a very interesting book, just from a cultural perspective. If you can just ignore all of the political stuff, that she was just going woke when she wrote it. And unfortunately, for later editions, it just got woker and woker.
Oh, I see. Oh, it's a series, and yeah.
No, it's just it was reissued with like notes,
Oh, I see.
It's called A Spiral Dance. by a lady goes by Starhawk.
Oh,
I believe her actual last name was Stamos. Very interesting stuff. Other than her, it was an environmental thing. She was around the woke, and she kind of went over the edge with them.
So when was the book published, you think?
Oh, Lord. Maybe 80 or earlier?
Huh.
Yeah, it had been around for a while. And what she was doing was putting together what the modern resurgence of the older, pre-Christian European religions was about. She wasn't trying to say, we are the direct lineage. Huh. But it was all about what this is. It was about now. It wasn't about, some history book or trying to latch onto something. It was about theology.
Right.
And does a pretty good job of it on that perspective. And it kind of started me off.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Isn't it interesting to talk about these books that kind of, I have an author by the name of George Steiner that I kind of fell in love with because he's a literary critic, a hoity-toity, I would call him. He's a Jewish academic that has the the Oxford education and the multiple languages and the classical and ancient
when you get people like that.
Really, so but what I really liked about him, Guy, was that he had this way of writing that was very intellectually dense. So it felt a little bit like, I describe it as intellectual poetry.
Okay.
Because there's so much contained in it. There's lots of opportunities for someone to slow down on a sentence, look up the references, the names, kind of deconstruct and explore what somebody's trying to say behind the words.
Right.
Not double meaning per se, but why is he making reference to this person, and this person in relation to?
Does he have a background as a teacher or somebody who actually speaks live?
Yes, he's a.
That's where it comes from.
Exactly.
That's where it comes from. There's more. You can put a lot more of that stuff into spoken speech because you can draw the allusions and make all those references easier with all the variations allowed in speech. Whereas the bare written word, if you don't know what they're already kind of talking about, then whoosh, right over your head. You never missed you totally missed that there is a subtext. I mean, listening to somebody live who's a really good speaker, you know that there was a subtext to something they said just by the twinkle in their voice.
Yeah. If you're paying attention and you're,
Right. But that's part of being a good speaker is you've got to get that attention.
And
be able to hold that attention and give them something to chew on. Every word has to have the nuances and the ability, for the audience to take it in and roll it around their mouth, get the taste of it, and take their time with it. Because they're live, and it's a different demand. And remember, I come from a performance background. Before I even thought about trying to write anything, I was doing crazy performance stuff and acting. And when I did Ren Fair, the group I was with I did character stuff, and then I did a game booth gig to do make money. And I really had fun with doing games hawking in a bawdy Elizabethan environment is loads of fun. And I had no problem being a top earner there. But this one year they decided, okay, we're going to do pass the hat stuff, which is like, okay, that's nothing. I'm like, give me balls or darts and I'll go. I can have so much fun with that stuff. It's like, sir, I see by the hang of thy balls, thou hast played with them quite often. Would you care to try these? And I've insulted Marines to their face, have them walk away from me after giving me a look that could kill. And then they come back and play my game. But this year it's like, well, we're going to do pass the hat. And they made a huge Jenga game. 2x4 blocks that they're all sanded, so nothing was exact. Nothing was exactly like anything else. And the idea was people are going to pay $1 to come up and play this stupid game. You know how long it takes to play a game with $2? If you got 2 people playing, it's just stupid. And I'm looking at it. Well, some of these people are doing it just as an excuse because they just want to be able to be at fair and working for a game.
So I gotta get the image of this. You're standing out in the field.
How stupid they were.
And they're like, as they're standing there, if someone comes by and looks at the stick on the ground and says, "What's up? You gotta give me a stick and you can put one on top of it."
I'm not done. It's like, so my first shift comes up. I don't know what the other people did because I never did it. My first shift, I started it off. I'm looking at this thing and trying to start hawking the people. And I'm like, what the hell? How do I get anybody's attention to do this stupid thing? So I got on top of it. I climbed up on top of it and had people play it while I stood on it. And I would have to move my feet when they put the new block on top. The only rule was they could not take ones from the back because I could handle it for quite a while with only sides and front being gone. But if they started taking from all 4 sides, I lost all. There was no axis of stability.
Yeah.
But I got it up I think we started at 18. I think I had it up to 26 or 27 before finally going. It would reach a point,
and then you fell down, man. What happened? Did you hurt yourself?
I would just let it go. I would just fall straight down. Sometimes I'd dance through the blocks through the tower as it fell. Just kind of moving my feet to get it out of the way. So my concern was landing on something solid. That's all I cared about. I wasn't up high enough to care. It was on a 1-foot box, and then the Jenga tower, and me on top on dirt. I've done tumbling. I've done dive rolls over 5 people on a bare wood stage. So it was no big deal to me. So I would get into immediately. Then I would send my minions around with a hat, pass the hat, get money, put money. We made so much freaking money for that. That was the only thing that made money for those people that fair. Yeah. Because none of the others who were doing it were willing to try what I was doing.
Yeah.
They didn't think they could do it, and I wasn't going to try to teach anyone. I said, "No, I can do it." And Sue, who was the boss, she didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
I would find someone in the audience who would have a mug of ale, and call them forward, and I would stoop down, take them, and take a sip, and then stand back up. Or find the cutest girl in the crowd, call her forward, go down, get a kiss, and go back up. And then finally, I'd lose it. And I generally could feel it. It's okay, I'm not going to be able to recover, and I would just kind of go down in a somewhat showful manner, and then do a big bow, and and then we'd do more past the hat, and start it up again.
Yeah, you had to really read the crowd, didn't you?
Yeah, I had a blast. That was the most fun I think I've ever had. I've been wanting to do something like that again for so long. But making the Jenga set is the hard thing because apparently it took 2 of them a good weekend, 2 or 3 of people, a good weekend of sanding because they were dyed 3 or 4 different shades with stain, so they had variation the color.
Yeah,
and then they had to all be sanded so that they wouldn't just stack solid.
Yeah.
Because Jenga tower, the real Jenga game is so small, you don't get it all up that high, but it's just too solid for what we were doing. Mm-hmm. I guess their idea, I think, was they wanted to make the game shorter, but considering what I was able to do with it, I would say they failed.
Yeah. So I'm curious. So this is a very interesting revelation here about my friend Guy.
Yeah, 8 years at the Renaissance Fair. I was technically what was called a master after 5 years.
Yeah, where was this in?
Southern California. This is the oldest Elizabethan Renaissance Fair pretty much anywhere. There was a bunch of hippies back in the 60s got it together. Eventually ended up owned by a lady named Phyllis, who was I know she has a last name, but nobody ever bothered to. Everybody knew who Phyllis was, so
yeah. Perfect. Thing for a book, right?
Oh, what do you mean for a book?
It's about? Perfect. Well, yeah, it's a perfect either memoir or draw up for fiction or whatever.
Yeah, no, believe. Oh yeah, hell, I've got material there for you can write books, movies, stories. What do you want? It's like what kind? I mean, it was a community. A picture, a bunch of people, 2,000 people just involved in booths and performance, or actually just involved in various performance activities, running characters, things like that. Then you've got the commercial booth people, like the ones I worked for. So I did both. I was in a guild and I was a boothie because I wanted to make money.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
But the prestige was to be to be a guild member, to be somebody in the fair.
Yeah, and you made it in that circle.
Well, I was never anybody big. I was ended up in the militia for several years, which is fun. We'd have little mock battles and march to the pike and had fun, and had the breastplate and helmet, which was lots of fun. I once showed up at my friend's dorm room at Pomona College in full, English military outfit, complete with cape, helmet, sword, breastplate, whole 9 yards. I just walked in the door, marching down the corridor, and it's like heading to his room. People looking like, what the hell?
Yeah, you're fine with that attention a little bit, though. Hey, you like it a little bit, don't you?
I always liked performing. Yeah, I mean, I like doing things like that. When I ended up going to Pomona myself, the reason why I ended up there was I fell in with. I auditioned for the Kabuki show. I don't even remember how or why exactly I decided to. Oh yeah, I did. They had a 100th anniversary celebration for Pomona College, and I saw this retrospective show piece thing that this friend of mine was in. That's how I got into it, and I really liked it. And I never really understood what Claremont was about, and even though I grew up just a few miles away, and it's like, damn, I have to go here. But in the meantime, I saw, looked up the audition sheets, and I made it clear when I auditioned that I was not a student. So there was never any, question with that. I got cast. I ended up being Hades in Prometheus fire play, which was a Greek myth, done in Kabuki style, which was quite believe me, And to do it, I had to audit the Kabuki dance class.
Kabuki? What's
Kabuki? Look it up. It's Kabuki with a K. Kabuki. It's Japanese. Oh. Japanese stylized theater.
Oh.
It'll blow your mind that I never had anything to do with this stuff. The classes were interesting, and the show that we did was nice. But that was, as soon as I did that, that was the last Kabuki I ever did. But
it sounds like a funny word. I'm sorry, but it's like Kabuki sounds like a little funny word.
Well, have you ever seen? You've seen stuff with Japanese, very stylized theater with white makeup.
Yeah.
Very violent.
How did they mix that with Greek? I don't understand that. They do that with Prometheus. They did that
with the story of Prometheus. In this, that's what the playwright had done. She had been a student at Pomona, and that's what they were doing. That's how I fell into it. And I kind of I ended up going to school there. I think one of the things that helped with that was while one of the days for rehearsal, everybody showed up at the dance studio upstairs at the Garrison Theater, and there was a big blackboard on one side, and I had written out the entire lineage of the gods that we all were, because I knew these people had no idea what their relationships to each other were. Except what was explicit in the play. I mean, most of them didn't have any detailed knowledge of Greek history. I'd taken freshman year in high school. My English credit was for ancient history. So I already had
so I have a project for you. Okay, I think it's. I
Well,
think
let me finish that. It's like finding out how many of them that Zeus had been with. It's like Zeus, his father Zeus, and it's like trying to do that all on one diagram.
All the kids all the children.
Yeah, they all come. You got all these from 17 to 21, 22-year-olds walking up there and looking at this. It's like, this is us. It's like, okay, these are who we should be. It's like, man, there were some. It's like, and my friend was the one who was playing Zeus.
Your friend was playing Zeus. Yeah.
His name is Matt Ford. He was kind of my intro to Pomona College, the Claremont colleges. And he was playing Zeus, so we had fun. And he's so not the macho, aggressive. It's like, no, he's like the good dude. So we had a lot of fun with that.
That's great. That's great, Guy. Okay, so I'm thinking of how to keep you in your flow state and work on a project together. I think this is a perfect impromptu second video, I guess, that we're going to put on YouTube. But I thought, man, this would be really awesome to work on a project with you. And I'm going to propose that we write a book together. Okay. And so what I want to write about is Pomona College and something akin to like a Walden 3. Okay, are you familiar with Walden and Walden 2?
Only by reference. I have not actually read Thoreau.
Okay, and then there's also Thoreau, and then also B.F. Skinner, right? So, so the tradition goes, Thoreau talks about living in wilderness and connected to nature, right? Okay, this is kind of the idea of Walden 1,
right?
Or just Walden. Now, Walden 2 was actually a place that was written, a fictional place that was written by B.F. Skinner, the famous behaviorist. Right?
Yeah.
All about operant conditioning and all these kinds of things. Right. So this is the utopia place behind his vision, right? So I'm not saying we paint a utopia, but what I am saying is we paint something really particular and defined. Okay, and I really like. I think that it will naturally.
What is the point? What's the thrust? What's the intent? I mean, you're speaking of the environment.
Who's speaking of the environment?
You're talking about the environment. What is the purpose of
the story? The story? Okay, so all right. I want to paint the picture that we've got a society that is like Pomona. So there is no checking out of Pomona and there's New York, or like there's that bubble where you're in this ecosystem of a world that was kind of different than other traditional ecosystems, right?
Dude, you don't even know how close you are. The Claremont colleges at this day are 5 undergraduate universities and 3 or 4 graduate schools and a school of theology. It's all intertwined and it's on the Oxford-Cambridge model. The only place like this on this whole continent where they've done this.
Yeah.
And they did it here. This place is known as Ivy League West.
Yeah.
It is very high in respect. I mean, it's just the Claremont colleges, the 5 undergrads are generally in the top 20 of whatever list you happen to be looking at for colleges.
Yeah.
If it's a top colleges list, they're going to be in the top 20. At least Pomona.
What I want to do is that I'm saying is that this is the background of the society of the novel, right? Is the Ivy League schools, and so we want to, develop.
This is Ivy League West. This is not the Ivy League. Remember, this is on a different model, and we're doing a California style.
Okay, California style. Okay.
That I watched some of that Schitt's Creek, and it was really funny. But you guys don't understand Americans that well. Because they're obviously meant to be American, but I mean, especially Californian. You really don't understand Californians.
Yeah.
They got the accents down, though. They got the accents down beautifully.
Yeah, I mean, it either hooks you or it doesn't. It's something that my wife and I watch.
Cute. I thought it was cute.
Yeah.
I think if they'd had more insight into the American characters, I think I would have been hooked better.
Yeah,
but I think it's one of those domestic consumption things. And it's something we would have about Canadians, which we have plenty of.
Yeah. No, I get that.
And I'm sure you guys probably feel the same way about most of that. I'm like, yeah, it's cute, but yeah, you don't understand us that well.
Well, I guess that we like to sensationalize things. So we know that in some aspects, some of it's kind of true in a way, and they are stereotypes. But
I admit we don't understand Canadians at all. We don't. You guys are impenetrable. You're just kind of like you're not us, but you're real fucking similar, and we're just not sure how to take that. And you're everywhere. It's like you talk with somebody, you meet somebody, they're cool, everything's kind of cool, and then all of a sudden that vowel comes out. It's like Canadian. It's like suddenly you're outed, and I don't know.
We're identified.
I think it's kind of like cousin rivalry. I think it's about the only negative image we have. It's just like it's kind of simply rivalry. It's brother, whatever. It's like, it's him. Yeah, whatever. So we'll always be that way. You'll always be Canadians, and we'll always be Americans. And
well, unfortunately, there is a growing amount of Canadians that get kind of upset at Americans, right? They really have a hate on for Americans, and that's
I have noticed that. Yeah, that's all. That's been around for a long time. I think that's mostly, I think, just that's little brother syndrome.
Huh.
I mean, come on, geographically, without some major world event putting Canada at the center, Canada is eternally the little brother behind America.
We are the coronavirus, right? We're the one that sits on top of the virus. No. I mean Corona, like we're on top of because just geographically you've got Canada on top of the U.S. and
no, I think because of the fact that nobody wants the northern part of any of that. Other than they would love to be able to put ships through it. Other than that, they could give a damn. You guys are just the whole reason why Canadians can be both tough as nails when they want to be and not give a goddamn when they don't want to is because we formed in front of you, more or less.
Yeah.
Before aviation kind of made that point moot. And it was like, by then it was like a done deal.
Yeah. Well, anyways, let's get back to this whole thing about Walden 3. Are you, because I think this is the best way to really give the listeners the most in-depth experience that is Guy. And I'd like to see you in your flow state. I'd like to see you get excited about describing creating a world that is similar to your Pomona. Pomona. I think I'm trying to mix like eudaimonia with Pomona, which would be kind of interesting, right?
Of basically apples, fruit. Basically, she was the fruit goddess. She was that realm of the agricultural abundance was under her. They weren't quite as specific as we are.
So the birth, right, is this like Garden of Eden, and where does the Garden of Eden come from? It comes from the fruit, which could be.
Well, that you get the Garden of Eden story has been done to death as far as and analyzed. I mean, go to Jordan B. Peterson for that. I couldn't beat his analysis of Genesis on that level.
Yeah,
that's the psychological level.
Yeah.
But from does the creation story itself bear any relation to any reality outside the psychological? That was what I was looking at. And my answer was sure as hell seems to.
Okay. So say that again. I want to make sure I get that.
I looked at it to see if it made if the ideas made sense, that there was something solid behind, factual behind the story of creation that we find in Genesis.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything there? I originally started looking at it just like I wanted to look at it. What is it? How do I interpret this? What can I get out of it? And this is where it led me. And because once I started, it's like every verse was just like, that works. But if I didn't have a really good background in both like stellar astronomy, the whole planetary, planets and stars and, evolution of the universe, but cosmology background as well as theological background, I wouldn't have had a clue about any of it. I mean, I had to have both of those backgrounds fairly on an intuitive level, where I could, feel what works and what doesn't.
Yeah,
right? Like you do with guitar.
Yeah,
you know what's going to work. You know what you're doing. You're there. That it's part of you. You got to have the knowledge. Is the same way, where you're thinking about ideas, and if you either know algebra and geometry or you don't. If you know it, you can think in it.
Yeah, you can adopt those concepts and the framing and stuff.
To start this idea, to even begin to look at it that way, I had to already have had a serious historical interest, to the level of anthropology.
Right.
Because remember, my whole thing, I want to understand.
Yeah.
That's it. And I've been interested in history forever. Literally, I mean, we had an encyclopedia when I was a little kid that had childcraft stuff in the books in the end that included the Greek myths, Greek and Roman mythology and things like that.
Yeah.
Robin Hood, all that kind of grounding stuff. And that was, so I don't remember a time when I wasn't interested in this stuff.
Yeah.
Because what was is part of what is. And then how we got there, from there to here. So I've always been interested in that stuff. Then in science, the whole thing, cosmology, stellar evolution, all that crap, quantum physics, to at least a little bit, and back in theology, reaching 15 years old, looking at the stuff I'd been taught about the Bible and all this stuff, and just going, I don't know. And just like, I think I just leave it at that. I don't know. And I thought about other things. I didn't stress about it.
Yeah.
Just absorbed other stuff. And around 25 years old, through I was already leaning back that way again, but had no focus on it. And the focus came from within. The focus came from my own intuitions and revelations, I guess you'd call it. I have no illusions that I, quote, met God, but I met God. I mean, it works both ways. I mean, a funny thing is, one of my best friends was a religion major. When I came back from that night, it was like the middle of the morning, I hugged my roommates. They're like, get off! What are you doing? I was like walking 3 feet off the ground.
Yeah.
After that experience, and it wasn't from the drug at that point.
Yeah.
It was just like because this lasted for a week, and then it was a month before I suddenly picked up this book and suddenly realized, my God, this is what this is what I. And I knew that I had never, in any coherent form, been exposed to this. I knew nothing but popular stuff about witches and goddesses and things like that. Nothing of actual form, substance of theology behind any of this.
But getting back into the Bible was the trigger for you at that point?
Well, no, it wasn't the Bible. The book that I picked up was the Spiral Dance book.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah.
And that was like, my God, this makes sense. And that was what led me into studies to ended up being a Wiccan priest. But I never tried. It was all for my own. I wanted to understand. And I'm self-aware enough and had enough understanding of modern science and stuff to know the limits of my understanding, which is also implicit in their teachings. That don't expect to understand it all.
Yeah,
but it should fit. You should resonate. It should be a seamless part of this whole.
Oh man, that's good. Good for you.
And it works. I mean, I can still say that my religion has evolved, but I've never abandoned the view. God is as essentially male and female as anything. That duality does seem to go all the way down to the basement. It's like it's turtles all the way down. It's screwing all the way down.
Yeah.
Sex goes all the way. This is nothing. It was, biology didn't invent anything new when it created the concept of male and female in many of its ramifications.
Okay, I got to stop you there because so you're saying because there was the because God existed before the biological split of the single cell.
Yeah, I mean, God existed from the moment there was anything to exist.
Okay.
So God had its own evolution of consciousness of some sort, but I don't even begin to try to speculate what that would be. I mean, I can imagine maybe writing a science fiction story that is pretending to the audience to be profound about it, but never taking myself seriously about anything that I might imagine there, because that's like beyond the beginning. I mean, what the universe. I mean, I'm not so much concerned about the universe as the cosmos,
right?
Like the saying itself, which is all of it. The universe is okay. This is the stuff that we see and can perceive, and might actually have some idea of knowing, understanding. The cosmos is all of it, including all the stuff we don't even know is there to not know.
Yeah.
And the cosmos is unknowable. And I accepted that. By the time I was 12, I already was like, yeah, okay. And I think that alone saved me endless miles of wear and tear on my brain, going through different, ideas over the years. Of not trying to follow those, those trends, those fads.
And yet but you will spend some time on quantum physics, for example. What was it?
I mean, the entire modern world would not exist if any fundamental aspect of quantum physics was wrong. The issues come from when we don't know the whole picture to be able to link. The problems come when you're trying to link quantum physics with the world of relativity to make a seamless whole from the small to the large. And we don't have those concepts yet. And, I've always accepted that some of these linkages may just be beyond us.
Really?
Well, think about before the Newtonian world. Before Einstein, they were rattling around in a box. Engineering and science could only do things within that box.
Right.
Period. Even if they accidentally did something that was outside of it, they had no clue that they were outside of it, and at best just shrugged up, threw up their hands and said, "Hey, it works. Let's go with it."
Yeah.
After that, we've gained understanding of the fundamental operation, at least, of what makes up reality, how the cogs turn, and what the cogs can do and can't do. But we don't understand how the cogs can actually mesh completely. It's like we got this part of the watch and it works beautifully. We got that part and it works just as well, but we have no clue how this one is embedded in that one at the interface. We don't have that concept yet. And we get insights and we get new perspectives on it, but I think we're still a long way from really completely bridging that gap. No matter how many tricks we managed to learn to do with the quantum world, just like we learned to do in the early days of electronics, where suddenly they were doing things that were literally magic to their father's generation.
Yeah.
And then they did it again. And
technology's like on a runaway train or something,
Technology's effects on society are what's run away.
Okay.
We've taken technology turned it into engineer. We put a little too much power into the individual's hands to drive the engine of innovation. It needs to go up a little bit. I mean, a little bit higher, at least up to the family level. We aren't there. We're at the individual level, and it's driving. We have everything an individual of 100 years ago could dream of wanting.
Yeah, we've given it, and so is that?
But we've lost track of the flow of the societies.
Right. Okay.
Because it's been too much, too fast, because we've done it because as individuals, I want this. Hey, it would be great if I could do that. Yeah, it would be cool if I could do this. Wouldn't it be great if I didn't have to die from that? And we just boom, 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 boom. Whereas you think about it more from the family level. Is this good for the family? Does the family want this? Do you really want a Game Boy? Does the family want Game Boys? Does the family want Netflix? As a whole, would the family vote for this? When you look at what their life is then, and then suddenly like, okay, if they were looking at, okay, you're going to give up, you get all this, all that's gone.
How do you fight against? The the tyranny of the elders? That they say, well, back in my day, we used to have it this way, and that's better for you. And
you don't. Well, I thought you were saying, how do you fight this? It's like you don't. We're caught in the flood. There is no controlling it. It's like fascism and totalitarianism. The harder you try to squeeze, the more it's just out of your control, and probably the worse it'll be. All we can do, what I do, is I hope that we're running up close to physical limits on some of this stuff, that we just can't do any better. It happens to every type of technology, and I'm praying that things are getting so subtle and so easy to upset that, we may be able to do some pretty amazing things still to come, but I'm hoping that we're going to start running up against engineering practical limits that are going to hang around for a while and give society time to settle into grooves.
Let it catch up and
let it catch up and have the pattern that it wants. Decide what parts it doesn't want and flush them off before the next one comes on.
Yeah.
Take like we've done, like we're looking toward the internet. I mean, people's attitude toward the internet is far more nuanced than it was back in 2000.
Yeah.
We need, and that's all we can do. We're in a global society. We're a race of lemmings, man. We're a herd beast. We don't. We're not meant to exist as individuals. We're not freaking. I don't know what's a big game type, big sized animal that actually spends most of the time solitary. Mountain lions. Oh yeah, pumas. They're pretty solitary.
Yeah.
They only come together to mate. That's not humans. If pumas were intelligent, if cougars were intelligent, maybe they could handle it, because they would already know how to deal with things on an individual level.
Yeah.
Or they wouldn't have survived to be intelligent, which is probably why it's still on all fours.
Yeah, there's a lot of benefit with our group.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. The whole anthropology, but I got into the whole line. History led me all the way. One of the best books I've ever read on the evolution of human intelligence, which is actually a subtitle, is called "The Ascent of Mind." Right. Okay. Yeah, I remember seeing that one before. Read it. And please ignore all the climate change. This guy was on he's in Seattle. Was based in Washington. And you could see the God we want it to be doomsday people were already echoing pretty loud in his vicinity, and he was already starting to talk that climate change crap as far as what our effect would be. But if you just ignore that and talk about pay attention to what the book is about, and not his interjections and asides on modern, stuff.
Well, I mean, take into account who you're talking to.
He's not a climate scientist. He's not a climate scientist. He's not even a geologist. He's an anthropologist.
This is so funny. You got to somewhat respect my
environmentalism. It was academia. He was an academic. That's where it was coming. It was his environment. He was talking about the water he was swimming in at that time. This was one of the earliest signs of it, but ignore that is what I'm saying. That's irrelevant. The book is genius about what its subject is about, which is how did we get these brains that do what they can do? And he links it to the rise and fall, the glaciations, kind of as a pumping effect with the fertile lands. I'm not describing it well. It's been a long time since I read it last. But that's more or less what it was the pre-humans would move into this area with the receding of the glaciers. They get pumped back. Only the best ones, the most innovative ones survive. Another round, they flood this area that's fertile, push back out again, boom, boom, and it's like acting like a pump. And this actually has been shown to occur in various ways on different, biological populations.
Right.
That this kind of effect does happen. It's an amazing book. It's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. That's how it happened. I mean, I just wanted to give you the caveat of that. His environment being in Seattle, he was immersed in the chrysalis of the doomsday environmentalist movement. The ones who were sure that this was going to be a bad thing. This is going to be a bad idea. Don't do it. We need to stop doing this. It's all going to, oh God, we're going over the edge.
We're going to do what?
That's a voice you always want to have there, but you never want to have it leading the parade.
Why was the environmentalists against this guy?
You want to get rude about it? The Soviet Union fell, and a whole lot of Marxist, lefty-oriented people had nothing better to do. And they drifted toward the environmentalist movement because that was the hot thing that was left.
Mm-hmm.
And they took the doomsday Club of Rome, it's all going to die. We're all going to die tomorrow thing. And melded that with their Marxist, theology. And boom, it's been blossoming ever since. And it's been a very upsetting show to watch because having read that book, I could already see that every time he mentions it, I'm thinking from my own knowledge at that time of like, what are you talking about? It's like you're living in an area with one of the biggest tidal surges in the planet. And you're talking about how we're going to maybe change some of this. It's like, dude, have you lived anywhere else that has a coastline that's actually stable and doesn't have like 20, 30 meter, tides in, different places in the islands?
Oh, have I?
No, him.
Oh, okay.
The whole Tacoma area, that whole northwest corner of the U.S. and the southwest corner of Canada.
Yeah,
when they come together, and then all those islands out off of Washington, and then comes up into the Aleutians. That was his environment.
Okay.
And he was a hardcore, ivory tower, academic.
Yeah.
And that's where he was coming from. But in his subject, he was brilliant.
Well, it bodes well for you because you're able to actually separate out the two pieces. Not saying I agree with you.
I think liberal arts education is essential to any kind of practical, quote, wisdom in life. You've got to have as broad of a background of intuitive knowledge as possible. And that's how you get creative. That's how you can meet new things you've never met before. And you take this, scotch tape it to that, duct tape it around that, run the pulley this way, and turn the crank, man. It works. And if it works, it works.
Yeah. Well, that's really interesting. On that note, do you want to, wrap it up? It's been an hour and a half, and we can post that on YouTube. And good conversation. And for all you listeners out there, I have to point out that I've agreed to put my face on Guy's platform here, so unequivocally, I completely disagree with him on the environment and his characterization of me. But hey, we can have a conversation about it. And
how did I I didn't characterize you.
No, the environmental movement. So that's
okay.
all I'm saying. So I find myself.
You identify with whoever you want to. I did not link you to any.
Well, you know that I'm environmentalist, right? So on the climate change alarmist deal. Just wait, man. You've had so much time to talk, and I'm just trying to get my point out. I'm a public figure. If I appear on the internet, I'm not going to appear with somebody that says that climate change isn't real. I'm going to say climate change is very real. Am I going to say that there's an aspect to the climate change narrative that is not alarmist or is not 100% based on science? Absolutely. Are there things that we don't know how to do? But I fundamentally think that we are headed towards a calamity, and
I agree on that, and we've just why.
Right, but that's all I'm saying. I don't want someone to be able to look this up and say, oh yeah, that's great. Daniel has a
I know.
Opinion with this fellow who.
Well, if you can edit all of that disclaimer stuff out. That was for you, so that you don't go read that stuff and come back to me and go, see. And my response will be like, he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. He's an anthropologist.
Oh, I see. To go and take it out. No, I don't mind having conversations with you.
I don't have to be represented saying that. That disclaimer was for you, for the most part.
So why would I just make it for my own purpose then?
No, I'm just saying that if you just wanted to have me talking about the book,
then I can take that part out.
The disclaimer, don't worry about including that. I don't care.
Okay, all right.
I understand what you were just saying because of that. It's like, it's not an issue.
Yeah,
the disclaimer was pretty much for you, so that you understand what I'm saying. Is like, I'm not, I don't want to say that this is a book, amazing genius statement, cold, and then have you go read it, and you're going to be a confused puppy.
Yeah, no. I mean, look, Guy, I read so much. I'm not going to be. I know,
about me. You're going to be confused about where the hell I'm coming from.
Not really. I think I kind of get.
If you read it, he keeps making all these little, references to the idea that we are doing this, and when the book is actually about the natural glaciation cycles, which is completely unrelated, really. I just wanted to let you know that I don't endorse anything he says on that. I would have to reread it to see if any of it makes sense at this time. The anthropological stuff, the anthropological, biological, cognitive, that stuff's brilliant.
Look, I mean, here's the thing. I don't want you not to say things because we're having an interview. If you feel like the book really needs...
I said it. It's up to you to edit. I'm leaving it up to you, is what I'm saying. I don't do well with editing. I can't pre-edit stuff. When it fits my intuitive beliefs. It doesn't work that way. I can't be performative on an intuitive level or something it's not coming from within.
Okay. All right.
So I don't try.
Yeah.
But I understand your positions, and I would not object as long as what I'm actually talking about in that, which was the book and the subject, that I don't get, say what you want. That's what I have to say. If you want to take that irrelevant stuff, anything that you consider irrelevant or off-site, which would be. I mean, that's not what the book is actually about. It's, it was my disclaimer of saying, he lets this stuff creeps in, and also let you know that's the first instance I know of where it was really overt, where the older, the world is coming to an end, group. This was, the new resurgence. This was like the first that I know of, that I encountered of it.
Right. Okay. When was that book written?
Oh Lord, you'd have to look it up. This would be early 90s, probably maybe earlier than that.
Yeah.
Late 80s. It's The Ascent of Mind.
Yeah.
Should still be, I mean, Amazon should definitely have it.
All right, my friend.
I don't even remember the guy's name. I don't even remember the guy's name.
Yeah, well, think about if you want to do this book or not, because I think, we got to be more deliberate on what we do. Remember, there's a finish line at the end of this where, it's more than just me and you and, your mom or your sister watching the videos.
Don't count on my mom.
Well, yeah, I mean, or someone else, single digit viewers is not what we're after, right? So we got to, we got to ramp that up several orders.
Here's a thought for you. It's like, since the 80s, we had what I call the plastic playground generation, where all of a sudden the metal and the sand and stuff that we grew up with, the riding in the back of the pickup trucks turned into car seats for all little ones. I mean, it was like wrap the kids in bubbles generation.
Yeah,
they're the ones who grow up to be the woke. By the way, you might have noticed.
Yeah,
but that was just beginning at that time. So where did I start on that?
Well, you're saying, this is kind of the beginning of the alarmist movement, or the catch on it. That's where it's being fed from.
Yeah, it's like, come on. I grew up riding in the back of pickup trucks, up the mountain, up into the Sierras.
Right.
And it was no big deal. If you rolled over in a pickup and got killed, it was because your driver was an idiot.
Yeah.
And that was who was at fault.
Yeah.
Or, whoever hit you. It wasn't like, oh my God, we're being unsafe, because no, you cannot be. If you're all in a van strapped in and got hit by that same semi, you'd still be dead. We do it with like our toddler with the car seat. I'm sorry. Yeah, if you look only at the families that have had major, serious freaking accidents, they've probably made a difference in survival of little kids. For everyone else, they've been a pain in the ass to a danger.
Yeah.
Somewhere on that spectrum.
Not agreeing, by the way, but yeah, I see your point.
This same thing, they drove this shit. The wrap people in bubble generation. I'm trying to remember where I was going with that. What I wanted, because there was a.
Well, remember that was tying into the whole climate movement and the alarmists.
No, this is about us talking. It was about what you were saying during our about to say goodbye, not about the subject of the talk.
I'm not sure. Well, we decided to keep. We're still recording,
No, because it was real. No, go back. Talk about what you were talking about, the kids and development, something like that. That's what triggered it.
Oh, a young person's development, like a cognitive development
right.
at early age, like a Piaget. I don't remember talking about that per se, but
Oh no, yeah, I was talking about how I got to be a polymath. It's like a liberal arts type education, broad background.
Right.
And then you said something in response to that, and that's what triggered me.
Well, I was trying to say something about, or you were telling me about the value of a liberal education, right?
Right.
But maybe let's return to the idea of writing a book. And the idea of writing the book was that we want to produce something that has, more value, because we're only meeting once a month. And if I can give you an assignment to, write out, the first part of a paragraph, or we agree and we hold each other accountable to this.
I actually was thinking only a few days ago about a couple ideas for books. Wishing I had someone to partner with on writing it. I cannot remember exactly what the ideas were at the moment, though.
Well, that's kind of what
I didn't have anybody, so I just kind of okay, that went downstream.
No, but what I'm saying is maybe spend some time thinking about it. It doesn't have to be
I will.
It doesn't have to be Walden. I just thought there's a way if you take something into fantasy. Okay, look, you're not getting a lot of people knocking on your door. I hate to tell you. Shit, man, I'm even feeling a little bit of that loneliness as well, because look, we've got good ideas. We have, are they good enough? we have ideas about what we're learning and the massive amount of knowledge that we have, right? So
Right.
some of your ideas are a little bit more out there, or maybe they're enforcing something a little bit more traditional. Now, rather getting into,
I think I'm more committed to if I'm comfortable intuitively with the traditional, I'm radically passionate about it.
mm-hmm.
So it's like, remember, Abraham Lincoln was called a radical Republican. They were radical. The anti-slavers were radical.
Right. Now, notice the way you've
But
taken
but everything they were about was about fundamentals. It was essentially what we would call still today a conservative movement, but it was a radical. They were like, no, this is serious. These are people. We need to take this seriously.
Guy, so I want to ask you a very direct question. Based on what I was saying, you've interjected and corrected me on something. You need to know where the conversation was going. Otherwise, you've just bucked it off, right? You've just completely taken it off the rails, right? Did you know where I was taking this, or what the assignment was, or what our next steps were?
No, I wasn't. I was
right. And so if I have to walk a minefield of allow the generality, if I generalize you inappropriately, as long as it's not pernicious or prejudicial, you can kind of gloss over it to get what's the point that he's trying to make here, right? So I'm trying to say, yes, let's write a book together. Let's create some content together. And what I'm trying to say is that, let's make a fictional world and start scaffolding in this world the way you want it to be set up. And I'm saying, fuck, why not start it in Pomona? Like model it off of Pomona, and let's bring in some Greek influence. And imagine society was like that. Imagine we were like the Greeks, but kind of Californian Greeks. You know what I'm saying?
I kind of see where you're going. I'm definitely going to be thinking about it. Believe me. That's why I said that just a couple of days ago, I was thinking about an idea. It's like, I would love to be able to work with someone on this, but I can't remember it because I didn't have anybody to toss it to.
Yeah.
So of course I'm going to be thinking about it.
Yeah. So that's what I'm suggesting is, let's kind of keep that in mind. And
my response is aye.
Yeah. So make sure, if I hold you accountable, you write that down. You have the power of booking an appointment with me anytime, which is fine. Mm-hmm. But write down those words. Think about those Pomona, ancient Greek, fictional world. Let's start.
You had me at let's write a book.
No, I get that. So let's write. I don't know where you want to do it. Do you want to do let's do a shared document?
Let me think about it. Shut up. You had me at let's write a book. Let me think.
Okay. So organize it, put it together, and that'll be and then book the time the next time you want to start talking about the book.
All right.
Start moving forward. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay, man.
Would you like me to send you a copy of Quantum God?
Sure. Yes. Actually, yeah. It's always good to have stuff from.
I'll dig it out.
Okay, man.
All right. Take it easy.
Yeah, bye.